Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for 40K from the Great White North. As usual, I'm your host Chris, and today I'm joined from Ottawa, Ontario by Mr.
Logan from OnePlus Productions.
And we have a special guest joining us from the DACA interwebs, Mr.
D-Man137.
Woo! Put the face to the name. Today's show is episode 73. It's a 40K show all about some news, PNP 4, and the Berry Bash. We'll cover those tournaments. Not briefly, but we'll go through them, and that's kind of our main topic. So, our website is oneplusarmor.com. CanHammer.com is still working, but we are going to transition over, and the URL will just point you to oneplusarmor.com. But just so you guys know, that is happening in the near future. First thing we're going to do, before we get into any main topics, news, and rumors, we're going to talk about our hobby cred, what kind of work we've been doing on our miniatures and things like that. And Logan's kind of smiling, for those of you on the live feed. Because we know that his is pretty sad. So we'll start with you, Logan. What kind of hobby progress have you been?
All right, so I actually started a new job in the real life about 2 weeks ago, and between that and being out with a sinus infection for a week, I have gotten nothing done. And then 2 days ago, when I was finally better, I went to go prime a bunch of my models that I've been waiting to work on, and found out that my white spray primer is dead. So I got to pick up a new one.
You lose.
Cool. And so you're the new GW manager at Bayshore Games Workshop, right?
What?
Aren't you the new Games Workshop manager?
No, I
That's
wish.
Ottawa?
That'd be great.
That's what I heard. That's why I put on DACA. What?
Oh, well, if it's on DACA, it must be true, right?
It's a whole It's so true.
Okay, and so I missed it earlier because I'm having trouble following the right orders tonight, but this is our Tuesday night webcast where we talk about news, rumors. It's kind of like a talk show about Warhammer, in air quotes. So this episode's 40K, sometimes it'll be AOS, but this time it's 40K, and most times it's 40K. So Yoshi, what have you been doing? Or I mean, D-Man, what have you been doing in the hobby?
We'll call
the
him
last
Yoshi at some point, don't worry.
couple weeks?
I have many aliases. Actually, after the Berry Bash, I picked up 3 Hornets and a Lynx. So I've been building those. I actually have the Lynx primed in my bathroom, which now my bathroom smells like primer. It's really bad. But I'm going to be painting that probably later on tonight. But it was fortunate too because I was like, oh, look, the Wraith Knight got hurt. All right, time to sub in the tanks.
Yep.
So I'm going to be working on that, and I have 3 more Hornets on the way in.
So we'll talk about it in the ITC news about the nerfs to the Wraith Knight.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess that goes on to me. I did something really stupid. So I know last show we were talking about how Chris is highlighting his Eldar still, getting them up. And then I decided, well, I had 25 Warp Spiders, but that just wasn't enough. So I ordered 4 more boxes, so 20 more Warp Spiders. And then I sat down in about 7 days. I painted them all, highlighted them all, did freehand on them all. I still have nightmares about the late nights watching Friday Night Lights, which is like, so I was like, oh, football season's done. So Friday Night Lights was a decent movie, so I'll watch this football show. And it turns out it's like a teen drama about kids getting pregnant and stuff. And I was like, this is so bad, but it's all I have. It's all I have to watch while I paint. And I just ninja'd through it all. And
that's what you get for painting 45 Warp Spiders.
Yeah, but
seriously, that's your punishment.
That's your punishment.
It was fun though, man. I kind of so the Warp Spider kit, there's only actually 2 sculpts.
Yeah.
So I was able to sort them into like groups of 20 and they're identical, right? And you'd be like, okay, they all have this rune here. I just motored through them. It's pretty funny.
Wait, there's 3 sculpts. There's the Exarch.
Oh, the Exarch, yeah. But you know, the main guys, it's like 2 main ones or 3 main ones, but
yeah, it's gun at waist and gun a bit higher than waist.
Yeah, and they're all staying the same. And then it's funny too because you like line them up and they're all just like with their guns out, and you're like, oh, this is brutal, man.
Put
like
them in a regiment.
Well, I wanted to order those ones from it's like some Eastern European country where they look really good, but they're sold out, and it was like wait times could be like several months.
Russia, Ghost Miniatures.
Ghost Miniatures, yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are sexy.
They're really sexy. And they're only $20 more than the regular ones.
Well, I was like, if I want to do it, I got to do it now. So I just ordered GW Direct. They're there 2 days, done. I prefer the fine cast over the metal ones because they chip much less. But
and you never know with Russia.
Yeah. And since then, so actually I got like a ton of Eldar stuff fully completed now for that list, which we'll talk about later. But I had to take a break from the 40K, man, and I've just been building AOS models that I had lying around and I picked up because I just can't do it anymore, man. Eldar, I just can't build them or paint them right now. I need a break. So
Yeah, I feel
cool.
you.
So that's what I've been doing in the hobby. So next we're gonna go into new releases and news. So we're gonna go with some podcast news really quickly. Is that we did miss last week, so this is a bi-weekly show. So we're gonna have two shows back to back, 2 weeks in a row, to make up for missing last week. We had a combination of illness, scheduling conflicts, just stuff like that, right? And
All
then,
my fault.
actually, it's partially my fault. I think I went to bed at 6 o'clock that night,
Nice.
but
Jeez.
yeah, I'm getting old. But it was so you're gonna get two back to back. So this news segment might be a little bit out of date because we still wanted to cover a lot of the topics that came out in the ITC poll, and then we're gonna have the next episode is gonna be like a 1 week, but there's tons of news that we're leaving out. So stay tuned for these two. They're not really a part one and part two, but we're gonna treat it that way. So the first thing, AOS news, is that the Tomb Kings got squatted. What do you guys think of that? So the Undead book came out, $20, and there's no Tomb Kings in it.
So I said this when Age of Sigmar came out, and I stand by it. It's a great excuse for them to cut models,
Well,
So,
and I'm not surprised.
like
Oh.
Caleb was legitimately upset.
Yeah.
We even had some. So we'll talk about this later. Capital City Bloodbath. We had one team over that cut switch to 40K doubles.
yeah. Well, it's like the Tomb Kings, right? Realistically, when was the last time you saw somebody buy them? Or when did Caleb buy
Well,
models last?
this is the worst part though, because the Tomb Kings are not bad. Well, when they were still a thing, were not bad in Age of Sigmar. They had a lot of really good power units, and now
Oh,
they're
yeah,
just
for sure.
gone.
And I'm surprised too. In original ETC, you would take like, I think you were allowed what, like 400 points more or something like that.
Yeah,
of Tomb
300.
Kings.
But yeah, they were legitimately good in ETC. So
And in regular Warhammer in 8th edition, I know we're not talking 40K guys, whatever, but they were legitimately abusable. But you had to abuse
Oh,
them
yeah.
a certain way. You had to take
for
Kalita,
sure.
like 200 archers, and you just destroy people. But
yeah.
Yeah.
so that's it for AOS news. It's been really quiet on the AOS front after, I think it was 3 months straight of releases.
Yeah.
So it's kind of good because now we got a ton of 40K releases. So I'll hand that off to you, Logan.
Sure. So, a big thing, there's a couple new books, or sort of new books. Farside Enclaves got its full reprint, which is basically everything that was in the Montka campaign, but now in its own book, similar to what the Cadian supplement was. What's cool about this, though, is unlike a lot of GW reprints, everybody who had the iTunes version of the Farsight Enclaves book got a free copy of the new one. Basically, just got replaced with whatever the new version was, which is pretty cool.
Well, it was the
So,
if you had the enhanced version, you only got the tablet
standard one?
version.
Oh,
Yeah, which is still kind of nice, but
it's
it's
better
not
than
as
having to
bad
buy
as
it.
the EPUB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But like, did they change any words in that? Like, did they change the wording on any of the formations that
from
were
Montka,
a bit?
no. It's exactly the same. So
that's unfortunate.
The ambiguity, arguably, I don't think anything at all is ambiguous about it. But like Riptide still can't get Earthcast, which has a lot of people up in arms. But it is what it is.
Oh, shucks.
Aw shucks. Unless you play ETC, where you just get it for free. Actually, interestingly, in the ETC thing, it doesn't say you have to pay for the upgrade. It just says you can have it. Anyway.
You gotta pay for it. I'm saying that now.
For the Gazgul book, got a reprint as well. The Gazgul Law supplement, whatever it is.
feel-
It now has the Orc Decurion, the Orcurian. I'm not sure what it's called, but a lot of people there's really mixed reception of it from what I've seen.
People hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of folks think it's going to be fine, it's fun. Then you've got people that like winning, and they say it's shit. So I don't think you're going to see it too much on any high tables, but it's cool to have the option.
Well, the thing that, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's the, I was looking at it and I was like, where's the green tide?
Yeah.
It's not in here.
Yep. So that one other competitive list that Orcs had, sorry guys, it's gone.
It might come out in the future. We don't know.
Yeah. So the hope is that maybe it's going to be the next release, like Curse of the Wolfen 2, Revenge of the Orcs, or something, is going to have Green Tide.
But nobody
Yeah.
has this yet, right? Like, do we have a copy of it yet?
I don't have a copy, but it is out,
Yeah.
and
It
it's
is
been
out.
confirmed that Green Tide is gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it at the GW store.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
own it, but I looked at it.
Yeah.
Because I haven't fully seen all of the command benefits for all the formations in it.
Uh,
I do like the running every turn. Which is the main benefit to that is that you get to
You
like
get to wire
wah,
return.
so you get to run and charge every turn, which is huge because it just means that your stuff's more mobile. It also means DACA jets could be busted because they
there
get to double
is,
their shots every turn, right?
Yeah, DACA jets are pretty good.
I think there's a DACA jet formation.
There
Yeah,
is.
there
It's
is
three
one.
three DACA
Yeah.
jets.
Three
Can't
DACA jets.
remember what the bonus for it is. It was one of the things that didn't get leaked, but yeah, there is a formation that has three of them. I mean, as you said, the big formation benefit or detachment benefit is you can log every turn. So, like truck spam is a thing again for sure. With boys, you're if somebody makes the mistake of deploying right on the front line, you've got a pretty reasonable turn one charge.
Oh baby.
Yeah,
I was
Um,
even thinking the boys units on foot, 30 man, because that's what I used to play, so that's what I have.
yeah.
So I've been kind of playing with like what would I do against certain opponents now that I can move, run, and charge. It's good, but I almost think you want like 90 boys and then 90 storm boys, and you kind of want to leapfrog them towards the enemy. And I actually think that could be really good.
Yeah,
Is-
it would be tough to kill them, and because of the, it's basically impossible with that many models. I think it actually is impossible with that many models to fail a leadership test as it works. So, basically, you have the green tide still coming at you, except it now moves faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
And-
and then like the storm boys jump up 12, the unit that, like from behind, then the boys unit moves up behind them, and they both kind of run together.
Yeah.
Then you do
Yeah.
it again, and I don't think it like even the other jet bike guy. He's like you could box him into a corner, right? But he
Well,
could
yeah.
probably kill 60 orcs in a turn easy.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're gonna lose a lot, but you've got enough bodies.
But that's if you're not in cover. Like, if the what's the name? What are they? The Storm Boys in front. We'll just give you a 5+ cover save behind anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Well, the storm
you kill
boys are the
whatever's
scary
closest.
ones. Like
Yeah,
those
the
are the
storm
ones
boys
that
are the
shoot.
Anything that's close combat to Eldar is scary. It's like,
That's true. Yeah,
And then once the storm boys get like down in numbers, they just can fly away because now they're super fast and hide on objectives.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It makes-
I think the limiting factor of that list, and I think this may be a discussion for another episode, but I think the very legitimate limiting factor of that list is it's going to be a bitch to play in 2.5 hours.
I
Yeah.
could do it. I guarantee I could.
Oh,
do
you
it.
can do it, but can 90% of players do it? And the answer to that
No.
is hell no.
And it's stressful too because when you play a list like that, you're gonna go to pretty close to time every game. Because I used to do it in fifth ed, and so you basically have to get down and be like, "Hey, man, I can't really be a nice guy this game. I'm just gonna be pumping through orcs.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move the front. Like we're gonna have to come to an agreement." And you're gonna have to motor, and then when the game's done, you have to sort your orcs and have them literally ready to go, 100%, because you can't afford to even delay a bit.
Yeah.
It is a
Yeah.
stressful day. Like at the end of that day, you're gonna be like, you're gonna
Your
have
back
like,
will be tired.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Max. Man, it's rep day. It's rep
It's
day
rep
for my
day.
back, bro.
Well, it was like the guy I played at Du Bois first round. He had 130 models, I think, in his army. We played 3 turns, and we hit like the game ended on turn 3. Legitimately, it still took us 2 hours.
Wow.
And
Was he slow though, or
he was motoring.
oh, he was motoring.
Yeah.
Oh, he was motoring. Okay.
He was playing
That
fast. Just
sucks.
a lot of shit to move.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see if this formation really does, because a lot of people say things are crappy and then they end up being good. I don't think it's going to be game breaking, but it does give them a boost.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
it's
game
great.
breaking. It's another option. It's not. Okay, here's the thing. I mean, this has sort of been what we've been saying about almost all the new releases. It's not bad. It's just not the best. Zod Snark and Cheap Stompa are still better.
Like, what does the commando formation get? Is that anything
I don't know.
fantastic?
I don't have the book, so
That's the thing.
No.
So we're gonna have to really revisit this later because you never know with like these commandos that can then run and charge coming on from any flank. Like, I don't know.
now for those of you watching live, Frontline Gaming is streaming tonight. We're going to be hosting them right after this, and they are playing the new Orcurian.
Oh, there you go.
So I'll want to see that as well.
We'll find out.
So we're gonna move on to the starts. They GW's still kind of doing good stuff. They did the start collecting Orcs box, which is basically their $100 box set for all their new factions. They did one for Space Wolves, which was okay. And so the Orc one, I looked at it and I said, ugh.
Yeah,
It's a dreadnought, a pain boy, some knobs, and a boys mob. It's $100, and then so I looked at it and I said, well, it's all $125 separate, but you can't purchase the knobs separately. So it's like you're paying 120. You're getting $125 worth of product, and then the knobs are thrown in for free. And I'm assuming they'd be like a $30-$40 box. So
Probably.
something like that. So it's not as good of a deal as like the Skitari one. But the one thing that made sense to me is I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's not good. But then now if you want to take the any of the core orc formations, you do need generally 1 to 2 dreads for the one of them, like depending on which one you want to take. So it may be worthwhile to buy 2 of those just for the 2 minimum dreads and then 2 units of boys. So I kind of looked at it might actually be worthwhile in that formation, just not right now.
Yeah,
so that's that.
They've done that with a lot of stuff for the new books and for the start collecting stuff. It's all things you need in some form. Maybe you don't need 2 boxes of it, but one of them, if you're playing whatever they've released, you will use.
You will use, yeah. And some of them have cool like limited edition models inside, like that. The Tau one has that ethereal you can't buy,
ethereal, yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the next one. The Tau Commander got re-released with the limited edition ethereal, who's now in like 10 boxes, so he's not that limited.
Yeah, it's easy to find.
Yeah.
But the commander on his own is $60, and this combo box is $75. So you're basically getting the ethereal for $15, which I thought was a steal because I like that model.
It's a good deal. If you're after that model or after an ethereal, it's a good deal. The problem is there is actually no reason to use an ethereal with really any list. Like the guy that placed highest at LVO with Tau was running an ethereal, and it worked for his list, but it was not the reason the list worked.
What was his list approximately? Just very general.
Okay, he had 2 Breacher units in Devilfish, with like 5-man Breacher units in Devilfish, with an ethereal in one of them. An Ivara Riptide wing with 5 Riptides, I think, and a Storm Surge.
I was about to say 5 Riptides? That's his army? Good.
Yeah, so six Riptides and the Storm Surge was the army.
Those Devilfishes are nice. They're really good.
They're good.
I think they're really good.
That 3+ Jink is the most annoying thing to get through.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough to kill. They're a lot of points. That's the only thing.
Yeah. So there's nothing really. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
I was gonna say he took those breachers because they're cheap. I'm assuming
the same price as a Strike Squad, but if you're putting them in Devilfish and you're going to be close to shit anyway, there's no reason to not take them.
That's true. You jump out.
And with the ethereal, with the bubble, if you keep them close together, you're pumping out 3 shots each. So,
and then shoot, and then flat out to the other side.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it works.
With the ethereal inside. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so and then we'll skip over. There's nothing much from Forge World for this week. So we'll get on to ITC news because this will probably take up a lot of time. So they had a new poll, so I'll hand it over to Logan, and he can talk because he's the ITC expert over here.
Sure. So poll ended last week on Friday, and the results didn't actually get tabulated until Monday. So effectively, it was the biggest thing for it was, does game size change? So do we go from 1850 points to 1650 or 1500? And the vote was surprisingly close on whether or not it changes. If you want all of these details, you can watch the latest Signals from the Frontline, which has all of them in depth with the discussion. But just quickly go over it. It is staying at 1850. It was about a 25% margin to say yes, stay at 1850. It's still going to be 3 detachments with just the 1 duplicate.
That's too bad. It should have been 4.
Unlimited.
I voted for unlimited. But
unlimited because
so did I.
The big change in ITC scoring for what the poll affected anyway is that now the faction you're ranked as is going to be whatever has the most points in your army. So if you have, a Pain Boy or a Weird Boy as your HQ and 2 units of Grots, and then your entire army is Eldar, you're no longer going to be an Orc army.
Man, they ruined my plan.
Well,
yeah, actually, I legitimately had that plan as well.
And that people were abusing that, right? Like some of the highest ranked Orc and Sisters players were not actually running more than like 300 points of those armies.
I was gonna take like a Heroes of the Path and call my army Harlequins, featuring 90% Eldar.
So the other huge change for this affects 2 players in this and not me at all because reasons. So there was a vote, and this is. I'm not a fan of this, but it is what it is.
I actually agree with it 100%.
There was a vote for whether or not to allow gargantuan creatures to get their toe and cover save. So effectively the vote was, do we go with the rules as they're written, 0 ambiguity? If you're touching ruins, specifically ruins, you've got your 4-up cover save, or do gargantuan creatures have to be 25% obscured the same way that vehicles and super heavies do. And the result was overwhelmingly in favor of needing the 25% obscured. It was almost 1,900 people saying no tow and cover to only 800 saying yes.
Oh, I called that, like, the moment they put that in the poll. I'm like, yep, all right, time to shelve my Wraith Knight.
Yeah, this really screws Wraith Knights. Like, their one defense against grab is gone.
It ruins the typical Wraith Knights, like the shooty Wraith Knight and whatnot, because they didn't have the save. If like you'll probably maybe see more sword and shield Wraith Knights now, or that Forge Old One can take a shield, yada yada.
Yeah,
like the Sun Cannon.
I think most of what we're going to see is either going to be Death Shroud plus shield or no Wraith Knight. And I think we're going to see a lot more Lynxes and Warp Hunters on the table.
Yeah. Well, the only issue with that is that so they made it easier to kill Wraith Knights, which I think's legitimate, fine. Make them hide. I didn't like that tone cover rule to begin with for Gargantuan monster creatures only. But the other thing that Frontline did is they did change their scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Wraith Knights are taking a second hit. You take your 6 wounds and you just lost 2 more Maelstrom points, which is actually starting to cost me games because people will play for the secondary against me. Now that they know this, right? Like you play Eldar enough, you go, well, I can't win primary. I'm going to play secondary, and I'm going to kill his Wraith Knight, and I'm going to win secondary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big changes on that side were Gargantuan creatures now for kill point missions, or for the destroy an enemy Maelstrom missions, give up a kill point or a Maelstrom point for every 3 wounds you do to them. So not only do you get your bonus point on secondary for doing 3 wounds, you also get something that counts for the destroy an enemy unit result on Maelstrom, which is huge.
Crazy. In one turn, you can lose 4 Maelstrom points.
You can. And what's even more nuts, I think, well, not I think, I mean, it is, it's a huge change, is you now round up. So if something has 7 hull points, or let's say 8 wounds, like a Storm Surge, when you kill it, it gives you an extra point as well.
Yeah. It makes sense, though, for a Storm Surge or for those ones, because I get a free wound or free 2 wounds. That makes no sense.
Yeah. So that's there. Basically, all across the board, Gargantuans got Gargantuans and Super Heavies. That applies to Super Heavies as well. Each 3 hull points gives you that same destroyed result, which really knocks the Stompa down a notch. Not that Orcs were necessarily running the show anyway, but
not that the Stompa need to.
Yeah. So I think.
Well, they did change the Stompa.
They did change the Stompa as well a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because how prevalent Gargantuans were in ITC was really, it was offsetting a lot of the Death Star stuff. And I think with Super Heavies and Gargantuans being devalued pretty considerably in this, we're going to see a lot more Death Star stuff doing really well again. But that said, if you look at the high-end results, it was 1 or 2 Death Star lists in top 32. I think it's going to be probably a more even split, which is going to make for potentially a healthier meta.
Except for that, the Imperial Knights went from being a middle tier codex, a lower high end codex to like a lower middle tier codex.
Yeah, they were never necessarily good in ITC. They were super middle of the pack, and this definitely makes them bad.
Yeah, it's like every night dying, you're like, oh, I just lost secondary.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if not next turn, I'll definitely go secondary.
Cool. So while we're on this, I have kind of a segue going into our event spotlight, but we're going to start off with is the Frontline also changed the way in which you get ranked. So that's a big deal now. So you're allowed 3 lower end tournaments, which are basically like your store tournaments, your 1-dayers, your 4-gamers. You're allowed 1 GT, which is what a medium size, which is between 48 people, I think, under 40.
28 to 58, or 28 to 57 is GT.
28 to 57.
Yeah, and you can have 1 result from that. Then it's, I think, 2 results from
1.
Oh yeah. It's one GT, one major, and a major is 58 or more with 4 or more rounds.
Yeah, and so it's a kind of a big deal because as a TO, like we run between Logan and I 5 tournaments a year, 4 tournaments a year.
At least, yeah.
How you get classified as your event could potentially create an influx of players, right? Because if I was going through, I said, well, okay, I need 1 major event. I have it, Adepticon, but you get significantly more points for major events. So, like, why not do 5 majors, right? So I went through, I found all the majors, and I was like, wow, there's not a lot of major events right now.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing The reason I say that is, previously, especially if we're looking in just our meta up here, we run 4 events a year that are at least 16-man ITC ranked. So we do that. If Chris, for example, comes in first at all of those, he's going to be, I think, without exception, would have been like top 5 Eldar or something, or top 5 whatever race for 16-man events. Only to be beaten by people that did really, really well at these GTs and majors. But now that's impossible, right? Your RTTs, the 0 to 28 people, can only give you 3 of your 5 results. So if all you do is play RTTs, you've got no way to actually be ranked up with people like Pajama Pants or whoever. So I think it's good. The other thing, and this is something that Reese really stressed, and from having run events here in the Warhammer community and in the fighting game community as well, so Street Fighter and stuff, it makes a huge difference to have that kind of weight behind it. One of the big examples in the fighting game side is the Capcom Pro Tour. So basically you get qualifying points towards a huge tournament at the end of the year. You get seeded into it based on how well you do otherwise. Having that and comparing that over to LVO at the end of the year is just it's huge. So hopefully for TOs it's going to mean less risk for going in and running these big events. It's going to mean bigger turnout, and I think that's better for everyone. It's bigger prize pools, it's more ITC points, it's more bigger fun competitions, and more events hopefully.
And I totally get it, because it is like 100-man GT is much harder to get top 10 in.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. We've all played it, right? Whereas these 16-man store tournaments, like, let's face it, there's 1 or 2 big boys in your area that are going to win them all. Yep. And that's kind of the way it is. But so this is going to segue into Capital City Bloodbath, which is RGT. So that's on to the next segment, which is Event Spotlight, which is RGT. The registration did open a little while ago. We opened it way too early because the War Machine guys need to book 9 months in advance. I don't know. Right, Logan?
So actually, the War Machine stuff, nobody's really looking at it until after WMW, War Machine Weekend, whatever that is.
So we opened our reg early, and it's fine, but yeah.
So tickets are available. It's going to be August 19th to 21st. It's here in Ottawa. Check out the website, capitalcitybloodbath.com. Every shred of info you need is there. If you cannot find it, hit us up on Twitter or email canhammer.podcast@gmail.com, and we will definitely get back to you with an answer. But yeah, tons of space, pretty reasonable pricing. The weekend, if you get one of the two-day events like the 40K singles or the AOS singles or the War Machine, whatever the big one is. Anyway, you get catered food both days, and the food is outstanding.
It's really good.
Really, really top notch. Venue's great, tons of space. Highly, highly recommended. And again, can't stress enough. If you have any questions, let us know, and we'd love to see you there.
So this is our plea out. Is last year we got almost 40 people, and so we're kind of putting out now, guys. Frontline's looking at registering, and like they'll label they're starting to label the tournaments like major or GT. And so we would like to get a major registration in advance of the event, which would mean selling 58 tickets. So if you know that you're going to come, or you want to come, because we do give a refund up to a certain point. I think that date's on there, right, Logan?
Somewhere on there. Yeah.
But like if you by registering early, if we can get close enough to the 58 or 55, and we can start advertising as a major tournament, it could create an influx of players wanting to get those major tournament spots, which are relatively rare, and there is none in Canada right now. So that's kind of my plea, is that sign up for that. The other thing is that we had an AOS Primer tournament that Nick was going to run, so thanks, Nick. Swords and Magic, which was March 5th, this weekend. It was canceled due to a huge amount of last-minute dropouts, like 80%. So we're also pleading with you guys, if you want to come for AOS at Capital City Bloodbath, please sign up now, or let me know that you're coming. Let me know you're bringing your club, because if you don't, and we start getting a couple months out, and we're having low turnout, we might have to cancel it. And I do know that there is some out-of-towners looking at coming into it, so please just help us get our numbers. I know that like last year we were like half empty until like a few weeks out, and then we ended up selling a ton of tickets. And I know that people think that way, it's like August, I need time, but this is me kind of getting on my soapbox and asking people to sign up earlier, because it only benefits us. So thanks, guys.
Us collectively, not us, the TOs.
Yeah, like we don't like our books are open and it's a not like all our money goes out in prizes. Like we make nothing. We don't even pay for our train. Our train is supplied by donations.
Yeah.
So cool. So that's that for that. So yeah, Swords and Magic was canceled. So if you want to keep the AOS community alive, you're gonna have to step up your game and help us do a little bit more work on that. And that's I think it for event spotlights. Do you have anything else to add, Logan?
Just, we're going to talk about the other two events. Northern Defenders in Montreal are running monthly events now. So those are ITC ranked. Can't remember where exactly they are, but they're usually a good time.
Labis.
Labis, okay, so they're Labis in Montreal. They're apparently a lot of fun. I haven't been out there yet, but it's it's ITC rank. As far as I know, they just run straight ITC missions, everything. So
Yeah, they never used to, and then Jason and I broke the comp, and then they went to ITC because we showed up with three Wraith Knights, and they didn't like that. So.
yeah,
Good.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
Don't be
Cool.
sorry.
So I guess we're gonna take a quick break. There was two events that we missed in the event spotlight. One was Berry Bash. The other one was PP3. We're gonna talk about those after the break. So we'll take a quick 5 minutes if you're in the live stream. So we'll catch you in a bit. Okay, so we're back, and there's a reason that we brought D-Man on here, and that's because he's been to the only two IGC tournaments for this year in Ontario so far,
Yep.
and we may have played in one of them. So we brought him
Maybe.
on to talk about these events. We kind of rushed through the news segment just to make sure we had enough time to do it all. So the first event, we'll hand over to Logan as our handy-dandy local TO. What was it?
It's Power Fists and Psychers 3. It's a build as a 26-man event. ended up being an 18-man event as our 11-person waitlist dropped, and 6 people dropped, and we had 2 no-shows the day of, and that all happened in a week.
It's because nobody prepaid, bro.
Yeah, so for the next event, we've done prepayment to reserve your spot, and we actually have 13 of our 20 people prepaid already after one day. So
Yeah, we have months to go.
yeah, and it's 3 months out. So
And there's a waiting list.
and there's a wait list now. So it's looking like this was a fluke rather than something that's going to be an ongoing problem. But anyway, we gotta build back up from there.
Yeah, because I know at least 3 people that would have came to PP3, but the wait list was so long earlier they never bothered signing up.
Yeah, that was one of the big things, and because nobody dropped until about 5-6 days before, it was really tough for people to make last minute plans if they were coming in from out of town. So anyway, it is what it is. We took a pretty big financial hit running it, unfortunately, so we've had to change up the prize structure for the events moving forward. Basically, it's going to be a percentage of entry fees rather than a set amount because we can't afford to take that hit again without going bankrupt. So it is what it is. Anyway, it was 18 people, ITC ranked using our players pack. We had both the other 2 guys that are on the show here attend, both playing Eldar. Very different lists, though. So how about you guys tell us about your tournament experience?
Me or you?
I guess do you want to talk about your list first, or like what your initial thoughts were? Like
Me
what
or
kind of
Logan?
prep you did? No, you. Why would
Oh,
Logan
me.
play?
I didn't play.
Logan
Yeah, I was
didn't
the TO.
play. Come on, man. Like
Logan could have played.
I pointed to you and everything.
When you point at the screen, you're pointing at all of us. In terms of my list, well, I've been building my list since pretty much when I bought the Elder, and I was like, man, I really like bikes, so I'll just buy more bikes and more bikes. And I ended up with 24 at one point. And I was like, man, I think I need more bikes. And I ended up like winning something in the store, like some prize support or some crap. And they were like, yeah, it's like $50. I'm like, is that a box? They're like, yeah. What do you have for Eldar? We have bikes. All right, I'll get more bikes. So I ended up with 30. And I was like, oh, God, this is so brutal. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do all bikes. It's all troops and they're all OPSEC. And I know that all missions for ITC were all like objective based and they're fast. They have a lot of shots. I think they're crazy. They're crazy broken. But I was like, all right, I'll just build around this. So I ended up taking that, took the new Forge-Rolled Knight, which I think is like amazing for what he can do. And the voice shield generator because I'm that guy. So I had to take it because I think I called Logan over like 15 times to ask him a void shield question. I was like, does it break this rule? It does. Okay, cool. That's good.
So what kind of rules does the void shield like? What does it allow your army to do?
Okay, so the void shield outside of it, not the actual building, but the shield it projects. So when you shoot it, hits allocated to a unit, hit it instead. Now it's an armor 12, like just wound thing. So when you shoot it, you're shooting that instead. Now the crazy thing is, it ignores grav, it ignores haywire, it ignores marker lights, like all these things. So that's already like a lot of things like grav spam, Cataphragm destroyers, Tau. They're already like, oh god, we gotta kill this thing. Then on top of that, I started reading into like other rules like melter guns and ordnance that say they get extra D6. But I was like, but it's not a vehicle, so do I get it? I was like, oh well, guess not. So when I saw it, I'm like, this thing's unfreaking believable.
Yeah.
And like spells don't go through it. And I'm like, how many points am I paying for this? Oh, a whole 100 points.
Yeah, you can't shriek it. Blasts, like no matter how many models they hit, get 1 hit resolved against the shield.
Yeah.
And
D-weapon.
D weapons just do a hull point.
Just do a whole point.
You
It's
can
like
conga line out. You can literally cross the board as long as one guy is partially within the shield. The entire unit gets protected.
yeah, it's like for what it does, it makes putting the bikes on the table and hiding there so much better. Now imagine if you roll the spell for Fearless Bubble with the bikes or Shrouded and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's like you basically set up a little base and you just move 12, shoot, jump back inside. Like it's pretty hectic. But keep in mind, we'll talk about it after in the Berry Bash event. Somebody did it against me. People can use it against you, which happened to me.
And this is actually an important thing to bring up. We were talking about the ITC poll earlier. So in ITC, you cannot take networked. What is it? Networked fortifications, fortification
Yeah.
networks.
Yeah, no, fortification networks.
But all the new data slates for fortifications are not written as fortification networks. It's just multi-piece fortifications. So part of the vote was whether or not do we allow these ones that are multi-part fortifications that aren't networks, and one of those is 3 void shield generators. The answer was overwhelmingly no, they are not allowed.
You
But-
thought 3 void shields was bad?
Yeah,
Here's
now,
mine.
now the interesting part of this is that with the way they've worded, you now can't take an Aegis defense line in ITC, but that's a different story.
That's not going to fly. They're going to clear.
No, that's going to be clarified, but it's
Sooner.
a funny unintended result currently.
But yeah.
So that's interesting. So you took that, and then you took a whole bunch of bikes, and now I know for a fact you specifically built that void shield generator and
did.
your new Forge World Knight for this event. Now, was
That's
that on purpose? Was it just that you had them, like, or did you say I need them to win this event? Like, what was your thought process?
Well, I had already a Wraith Knight from before that I had used, and it's interesting enough. I went to my buddy's place to play a game, and we showed up and literally said, "Hey, I have your knight." It came in. I was like, "Oh." Then I was like, "Oh, why was it so good? Why did I want this?" Then I read its rules, and I'm like, "Oh man, this thing's amazing. I can shoot at range 48. It ignores cover, so it's really good against like some Death Stars, like people that are invisible. I can hit them with a
Raven Wing.
Flamer, Raven Wing,
Yep.
and which I didn't see any there, but whatever." But I was just like, oh, this would be really cool. And it had like cool little special rules. Like you could leave the table, which I thought was really cool. So I wanted to try something else out. And I like the surprise factor. A lot of people don't play against this, so their strategy might be different. So it could freak them out, which is good because then you have a million bikes shooting you anyway. And the Void Shield, I learned very quickly that GW doesn't make that model anymore.
Yep.
That sucks. Yeah.
And when I looked it up, and I was like, oh, $500 on eBay, better start scratch building.
Yeah.
So
And
So
I,
Yours looked good. Yours looked really good. It's just the only complaint I had about yours was for you, is it didn't block line of sight to anything.
no, but I was like, yeah, I'm already taking 30 bikes. I gotta be a nice guy.
Yeah, I
Whatever.
guess.
yeah.
But I didn't know you're bringing 45 bikes, 45 warp spiders. If I did, I would have made that thing a big square because I'm like, oh, I'm not a jerk. Look at that guy, he took 45 warp spiders. Which was said to me at one point, which was the most hilarious thing I've ever heard.
Somebody said that you're not the jerk.
No, someone's like, oh man, you have 30 bikes. That's brutal. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, but it's not 45 warp spiders. That's like way worse. That's
They knew it. Like I was surprised some of the guys even like when they looked at it knew what it would do to them. I don't know.
I think a
Like,
lot
I-
of people watched LVO.
Like I thought I was going to be more of a shock factor than that because like literally this was like right after LVO.
It's the week after. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
And then
I didn't know you had 45 warp spiders. I knew you had warp spiders.
I had 25 almost pretty much painted beforehand, and then it was the extra 20.
I thought you were gonna take the same night. When you didn't, I was like, okay.
No, I still stand by mine. So I guess we'll go into my list, and I'll say what
Yeah,
I
go
still
ahead.
stand by the old style night. Well, for this event, pre new poll there, but so yeah, I took the a host from Forge World. So I was like really into warp spiders. They were winning me lots of games. I always took 5 units or 4 units, and they were doing amazing things. And I like, okay, well I'd like a few more, but I also want the servo skulls, and I need 3 formations. And then Logan let me borrow his Forge World book for the whatever the new one is there, the Doom of Naimura.
Mirror.
And I looked it up and I was like, whoa, there's this pale host in there. Oh, so this is how people take 40. Because I never was like, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Taking like 2 CADs and a friggin' aspect host? Like I never really, because like the LVO weekend, I was actually busy. I never watched a single video of it. I just kind of like heard the chatter online.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so that's how he does it, right? So they all run automatically 6, which is huge. It only takes up 1 of my 3 detachments, and I get 45 warp spiders. And I can still take a CAD and still take an Inquisitor. So that's what I did. And because I was like, this is crazy good. Now the issue is that I wanted to take my 5 units of 5, 25 warp spiders, and then I wanted to take 2 units of Dark Reapers, but you're not allowed. The Pale Host says they all have to be the same.
Yeah.
And so that's why I bought the additional warp spiders, because I basically felt like I had to, even though I would have preferred 2 units of Dark Reapers over warp spiders, but it's pretty cool. And then I took the Wraith Knight, but I took the one with the 2D cannons for the sole purpose of dealing with things like Void Shield generators, other Wraith Knights, Storm Surges, more of the Riptides.
bunkers, anything with armor
Bunkers.
14.
Yeah, like it's basically like my whole army can't hurt armor 14, so I have my Wraith Knight to do it.
Yeah.
So I swear by that guy. That's why the new one's really nice. He screws up the Raven Wing really hard, but
But he can't do anything against.
yeah, you can't
Well,
hurt bunkers. Like, well, you couldn't combat, but
Yeah, but I have to get there.
You have to get there, and you know, it's just like it's different, and like having the guy just chill back and shoot D cannons, I thought was pretty cool,
Yeah,
especially Imperial Knight across the board. You want to
Yep.
kill
yeah,
him,
yeah.
so I still
They
stand by.
serve. Yeah, they serve different purposes, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. So that was our list. We're cheesemongers. Nobody
Yep.
cares about Eldar, but we took that. So who'd you play round one quickly?
I played Jason Sparks round one,
Yeah.
and he literally had the same army as me.
Almost
Ipset,
identical.
almost identical. Like he had Dark Reapers and I didn't. And
Did
I swear to
different
God,
night. He had
he
the
had the
D9.
DK and I had like
Yeah.
okay.
He,
I think
he,
I remember.
he had the decannon knight because he couldn't get the new guns fast enough for the knight.
Yeah, he had a void shield. I had a void shield. I had servo skulls. He didn't. He had decans. I did. I had
Oh,
warp strikers. He had warp
I
strikers.
just got to go on a rant for a second. So
Sure.
we were talking earlier about the fact that the void shield generator model is damn near impossible to find. So I can appreciate that some people aren't the most hobby inclined, but please actually put some effort into it. And
Why? What was Jason's that bad?
it was literally the
was a
tower
castle-
from
a tower.
yeah a castle tower. Like it was a solid 9-inch tall, completely line of sight blocking thing. Like
It looked like
get it.
fantasy terrain.
Yeah, it's a piece of fantasy terrain. I get it. And then, Jason, if you're listening to this isn't a knock against you. This is something that a ton of people do.
No, I'm knocking you, Jason.
It's
Don't do it.
It's really like, and it fit the guidelines we specified for it. It was 4x4x8, whatever it was. But put some effort into it because next time, like it didn't happen this time, but it's gonna destroy people on paint score if they just do something like that. Like
Yeah.
even if you get like a tin can, like what I did for mine, is it's literally a can of beans with a coaster, a pill bottle, and then something else on top of a few bits of sprues, and
The
just
can of beans still full of beans.
No, it's not.
Oh.
That's the secret.
Horrible
I
idea.
cut myself horribly on it. Actually.
Well, what if you're hungover and you need a snack, bro?
Well, there
Right?
you go.
Like-
You can do that. Just pop open the bottle. Anyway, my point is take advantage of the fact that there's some hobby that can be done here and do some hobby on it, especially for something that's either wildly out of shape for it or is sort of abusing the spirit of the rules. Because 4x4x8 of a tower is a lot different from 4x4x8 of something that's mostly see-through except for the bottom 3 inches.
Yeah. I didn't know he did that, but
I thought it was 5x5. Oh,
yeah.
damn it.
I mean, roughly. Anyway, that's my quick tangent.
So,
Again,
but yeah,
no offense intended to anybody who does that, but please don't.
So how'd the bear match go?
We legit tied. Like, it was exactly what we. I was like, "Yep, all right, we tied. Well, high five. Like, let's never play each other again."
So yeah.
Which one
So,
said, sorry.
oh, go ahead. Go.
No, I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, wow, exactly what I, in my head thought probably would have happened, ended up happening. It's
Yeah.
like, well, we tied. Okay.
Makes sense. Same army tie.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
It was
I
a wash.
played. Oh, sorry. So I played Wheeze Eldar, and we had the one table with like a giant 8-inch wall in the middle, like 90 degrees. And I rolled, and I got the table quarter where like the 90 degrees pointed towards his corner, and I just put 45 warp spiders behind a wall, and I just jumped out, shot, jumped back, jumped out, shot. And my Wraith Knight just went through his army.
Oh my god.
Turn 7, all he had left was an Autark and a bunker, and I was like, you know what, dude, we could probably call it, but I want that 1 point for Slay the Warlord. So I went after him, took him down, got a max win, which is pretty awesome. I was pretty stoked, because Eldar on Eldar is a scary match. And he had the Hornets too, so he was able to maybe kill my Wraith Knight early.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out. So round 2, who'd you play? Or
Round 2, I played. I played Will Paul. That's right. I played Will Paul's Demon Army. And he took, I think it was like 4 Demon Princes, a unit of, I think it was Plague Bearers, like 20 or something. Plague Bearers with the guy with the bell, making minus leadership.
Yeah.
6 squads of like 3 Nurgling bases, the mandatory Fury tax they have to take with that formation. But it was mainly the 3 Demon Princes, like with their special rules, their formation, which is really cool.
4 princes.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of each god.
one of each kind, yeah. A Zinj or Nurgle Chaos Element. And it was like first turn, I was like, usually I want to go second. I was like, oh, I'm going to go first because I need to kill Demon Princes before they go into the sky, and I never kill them again. And I got really lucky, and I killed the Nurgle Prince first turn. And I was like, oh, all right. What happens now? He's like, they lose abilities. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, they're toughness 5 now. I'm like, oh, baby. This is so much better.
Yeah.
And then the next turn, his Zinj Prince like ran off the table. He failed. He was like the old Fate Weaver,
Yeah.
where if he takes a wound, he runs. So I did like one wound to him. He's like down to 3. Leadership test 10.
Yeah, it's
So long.
the impossible rogue. Every time it's a 3+ invul, and you reroll ones for Zinch, but every time you take a wound, you have to take a leadership test or you die.
Yeah. And then after that, it's just the 2 other demon like the Slanesh and the corner one. They're not like the best ones out of the 4. So then it was just every turn it would be like 30 bikes, shoot Demon Prince, 30 bikes, more Demon Prince, and it ended up being I can't remember. I know I killed a bunch of stuff, but like it was just like stuff would come on, and I just kept shooting it, so I kept pushing it back, and he couldn't cast Witchfires into the shield, obviously, and it was pretty brutal. But keep in mind, Will's dice like abandoned him like at the beginning. I did 20
Oh,
wounds
Yeah.
to a 2+ save Demon Prince, and he rolled like 5 ones.
Wow. That's Will though. He does that sometimes. His dice just die.
Yeah, it happens. But how about you? What was your second game?
I played Jay's Eldar. It was, I went second. Warp Spires do what they did. I got in his grill and I just took all his toys off. We got a big win. There's not much else to say. It was like all these games, all my games anyway, are filmed and on the One Plus Armor YouTube channel, so I won't go through turn by turn, obviously. But yeah, it was just, I had more Warp Spiders than him, and I was just able to get all of his stuff and take it off. So
Yeah, that beta strike with the warp spiders is nasty.
it's the thing is I'm just so fast, and then I'm running away, and the counteractive is like, oh, I'm going to shoot my bikes at your Warp Spiders. It's like, well, 1 unit of bikes kills 2 to 3 Warp Spiders at the most, so I still have a fairly effective unit to go into them afterwards.
Yeah.
Or I can hide in cover, and so like it can take up to 4 bike units to kill 1 unit of Warp Spiders. And when you have 9 units of Warp Spiders, it's pretty good.
It's a spicy meatball.
So who'd you play round 3?
I forgot his name.
What
Gee.
army was it?
Remember the Chaos Army?
Garrett?
Is it Garrett? He had a flyer.
You played 2 Chaos Armies?
Oh, you played Roddy.
Is that his name? Sure.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Roddy
I played
had the
him.
Blood Slaughterers.
Yeah, he had
Yeah,
blood
that's
stars.
right.
Like that. He told me like they're not Mauler fiends. They move 6. And I was like, oh, sweet, much better.
Oh,
For me.
Two Chaos Armies. Ugh.
Well, it was weird because every time Logan would come to the table, I would do horrible. Then he'd leave. I do a lot better.
Yeah.
Then he'd come back. I'm like, no, just don't come back. Just don't come back.
Yeah, get out of here.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Because my Wraith Knight was getting killed by those whatever they're called, the 2 claw things.
The Blood Slaughterers.
The Blood Slaughters. And then the moment Logan walks away, I roll a 6 and stomp both of them. I was like, oh, that was easy. Then they died to 1 spawn, but whatever. Details.
So
But
how'd
it was-
that
it was
game go for you? Good?
Yeah, I got a full win on it. I think I ended up tabling his army, but it was like this Chaos Army was like a mishmash of things and couldn't get really past the Void Shield. And that game's Warp Spiders actually blew up like 2 of his tanks, and it was like turn 3 or 4 where like a bunch of stuff started dying. His Black Mace Demon Prince died from a D cannon shot that rolled a 6 because he for some reason didn't want to fly with the Demon Prince. But
So I guess I had the rematch versus Olivier next. He's the Battle Company player locally. I think he's the only real Battle Company player locally. There's 1 or 2 more, but he's the one with all the Razorback spam, White Scars, you name it, some drop pods, con, bike unit with grav. I put my skulls out. He was like, shoot. And he kind of didn't know what to do because I think he was used to, like last time I played without the skulls, he put his stuff up, scouted, and then he would like dump his Marines out and drive his tanks back while shooting.
Yep.
yeah,
And my skulls basically screwed him up. And I think he
Oh,
took
man.
all his Marines out, and he would drive his tanks, like first turn he would drive like half his tanks up 12 or 3 or 4 tanks. Then the other ones would drive up 6 and shoot. So he wasn't really fully engaging me. And then I just basically popped like, it was like he was up by like 3 kill points, and then I went and I killed like 7 tanks in like 1 turn. And I went up by like 5, and I was ahead in Maelstrom. And then the next turn I did it again. And it got to the point
Oh.
where by turn 4 or 5, it was like I was 18 kill points ahead of him, and so he couldn't ever catch
Oh,
up.
God.
Like I stopped counting. Like I was counting, and then I felt so terrible that I stopped counting,
should have just thrown the paper.
my
out. You're
dice.
Like, oh, won't be needing this.
and I just kind of sat there, and I was just letting it kind of go, so it didn't appear as if I was really that ahead. And then Maelstrom, I got ahead, and I was like, and I just went, okay, well I'm ahead by like 4, and I denied him 1 turn of Maelstrom and threw away a couple units, and that was over. It was like
Yeah.
he basically conceded, But it was like I had max points anyway at that point. So I'm going in the last round. Perfect day so
Yeah.
far. Every bonus point, every objective, you name it. So round 4 was
Yeah.
what, Yoshi?
Round 4 was final table against what's his name? This guy.
Yeah, it was you and I, and I was feeling pretty good. I was like, I'm like 12 or 13 points ahead of this guy.
It's true.
So
I had that. I'm like in my head. I'm like I have to beat him horribly, and it's not gonna happen.
yeah,
It
I
was
felt pretty
brutal
hard
too.
done by though. Like turn 1, I jumped it. So I put everything on the board because he made me go first, which is like you never want to go first. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna maybe table him. And so I put everything on the board. And I'm like, okay, my warp spiders on average should get close enough to hit his stuff.
Yeah.
And so the first unit rolled a 5. I was like, shoot, too slow. Second unit was like a 4, 5, 6. Like it was like
It was
everything was too
so
slow.
low. You rolled an 11 with the unit that was like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, at the wrong end of the board. Just
Yeah.
because I had to spread them out because you knew where they were. And I go up there,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do anything. So I end up shooting all my bikes, all my warp spiders that could shoot at your void shield. Nothing. Not a single shield.
It was so
It was
brutal.
gross. It was like, I'm like, wow, I should have had the void shield gone, and he should be taking some saves on his wraith knight. Like, geez, he null deployed me. You know, it's a wraith knight, 2 bike units. I'm like, this sucks. And then
Yeah.
my wraith knight had to waste his shots, his D cannons on void shields, which was just heartbreaking.
Oh, it was brutal. Like the amount. Oh, I thought after like the third unit, I'm like, okay, the sixes will come. They
Yeah, I
never
just
came.
need to roll like 4 sixes with one unit, and it's gone, right? Or 3 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they never came.
Yeah.
But
So my whole army is like 12 inches off his. Well, and then so his turn 1 is he like kills some stuff, right?
I think I tried to kill a unit and then I turbo boosted an IU objective. And then I moved my Wraith Knight and I shot some Warp Spiders and then you flicker jumped away and I was like, great.
And then I
Awesome.
got a whole other turn to be like, okay, I got 2 turns. He has no reserves in. I was like, and I killed like one of his D cannons. I got rid of his shields and I killed his Wraith Knight. So I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm like, this is pretty awesome actually. But
yeah,
his bikes are going to come in. And then I had like 3 Warp Spider units go after a D cannon in combat and I could never kill it. So
yeah. There was like spiders on one side of the field and spiders on the other side of the field. And I basically
yeah.
had to like go all the way on the other side.
So what'd
It
you
was
do when
brutal.
you came in from reserve?
I was like, I could go where my Void Shield is and shoot these spiders that are all here. And I was like, nope, nope, not gonna fall for this trap. Can't do it. They're all gonna die. So I ended up deploying all my bikes on the complete opposite side, basically making my Void Shield useless for me the rest of the game. And into this one building where I hid out with everybody inside and which just try to pick off units. I didn't want to deal with like 6 squads of spiders at once. I was like 2 squads or 3. I'm like, okay, I can shoot those, and they might charge me and whatnot. But you know, there's not much. There wasn't much I could do. I'm like, you either hide them, and if I shoot you, you just move closer, because it won't matter to you. And I was like, oh god, this is so frustrating. And I tried to hide some units. I'm trying to remember what happened.
Well, you're putting them on like different levels, and then you
Yeah,
came in. I think like you shot. I got down to 1 X arc because once you think about warp spars, you shoot them. I let you shoot the 1 unit, and then you killed like 4 guys with like 3 units or something,
yeah,
and then I jumped the X arc and hit them, so you couldn't kill the unit off.
yeah, exactly. And
So I
oh,
did stuff like that.
that's why I was hiding on the second level. I was hiding on the second level because I didn't want to get charged by a Wraith Knight because I knew that they couldn't go up a level, which made no sense. But they couldn't go up a level. But then I realized I'm like, this makes no difference. This Warp Spiders will just charge me,
Yeah,
which we found out after Warp Spiders suck at combat
yeah. And
just
then
as
so
much
yeah,
as bikes.
it sucked because my next turn I'm like, okay, so all my warp spars go up, and I just shoot bikes, charge bikes, shoot bikes, charge bikes, and that was like basically the game.
That was literally almost 4 turns of
Yeah,
shooting
shooting
bikes
bikes,
and
killing bikes.
yeah. And I think what did I have like? Do I ruin the end? Do I spoil the end?
Yeah, let's spoil it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so essentially at the end of the game, Chris had surrounded 2 objectives. Like, and I was like, yeah, you surrounded it. You don't have to like move the models. There, you got it. I can't hide there. And I had the other 2 objectives, but I was losing Maelstrom by I think I know we were tied on Maelstrom, and I was like, if I can do 3 wounds to your Wraith Knight, I'll win Maelstrom, and then I'll get the victory on that side of the game. So I literally had like a Farseer with 1 wound left, 5 Warp Spiders, an Autark, and I think 1 single bike. And you had
Yeah, that
like
was your whole army, and I had over 30 warp spiders alive. I do.
yeah, you had like 60% or 70% of your army left. So I
And a
ended up
Wraith Knight.
and a Wraith Knight. So I ended up Psychic Screaming and terrifying the Wraith Knight, and I did 1 wound. And then the 5 Warp Spiders jumped up and did like, what was it, 3 or 4 wounds?
A lot, yeah.
A lot of wounds. So I got that point. I'm like, oh, I need the game to end. And then luckily, I don't know what his name was, but he
Andrew,
rolled
yeah.
Andrew, ended the game. I'm like, oh, thank you, Andrew. Because next turn, I'm almost convinced you would have tabled
Yeah,
it.
that's the kind of it's. I felt like I was like, man, on a 3+, because you basically had that gamble. Those spiders were within charge range of my Wraith Knight,
Oh, they were dead.
and I think your Farseer had like 1 wound left or something, and then you had
Yeah.
like literally one bike and an Autarch, and I was like, I can get almost guaranteed Warlord, some
Yeah.
Maelstrom objectives, and primary,
Oh,
like maybe even
yeah,
tabling in like turn 6, and it
that
just
was
didn't
also
go on.
that one turn where I killed your Farseer, Autarch, and like 2 bikes that were in a squad,
With like 1 unit of bikes.
and one unit of bikes. I was like, and
I
all that.
failed all my saves. Even my Autarch. Remember that? It was like
Yeah,
I had to make 3 saves on him, and I failed all 3, and he died. Or I had to make
yeah.
4 saves, and I failed 3, and he died. And I was like, "What? You got Warlord and like 3 friggin' units in
Oh, it
like
was
one
ridiculous.
turn, like one shot."
I think after you like started rolling a bunch of ones and twos, you didn't even say anything. You would just roll it, pick up the model. You're like, okay, that makes sense. Yep, cool. 3+ save. That's normal. Whatever.
They just
We've all
came
had
off. I
those
was like, "Oh,
moments.
Sorry.
So we've all had those moments.
yeah."
Oh,
Like I felt like really hard done by during our game because like my first turn I did nothing, and then it was like that turn, and then it was like. But I guess we'll move on to the final results. After that,
yes.
it was a fun game. I had a lot of blast playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a great time. And we both played 2 armies that people consider that are not fast armies that takes a long time. And we finished with like turn 5, and we had time to
You
spare.
had half
Like,
an hour to spare with
There
2
was
hours
one thing that really pissed me off that you did, though. Should I say it?
Say it.
Okay, so
Let's hear
he
the
has a
trash.
D. It's not bad. It's like he has a D battery, and the D battery comes with one crew mounted
Oh,
on it.
oh yes, yes, yes.
And so he had one crew in front of it, and I killed that crew, and then I killed the D battery, and you took the crew off it and put it behind it, and it was just out of range of my warp spiders, and I was like,
Didn't I take him off
"What?"
after? After
Well,
you
you
said.
put him behind, and I said, "Man."
Oh, that's right. And then I put him back.
You
in
put him
front.
within the base of the artillery because I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of
And
whining
then you.
about. I was
Yeah,
kind of whining about it. I was like, it's not really fair because I could have actually moved my unit for him to be in
yeah,
range in
yeah.
the movement phase,
I moved him
but
back. I moved him
he
back
was.
up, didn't I?
Yeah, you moved him back up, and I ended up shooting him, and I think you made your 2+ cover save, but
Yeah,
it was like
no,
just,
no, I think
or
you
he
killed him
died,
off
maybe he
first.
died,
Yeah, he died. You got first strike with that thing. I
but
think
it
so.
was like I just felt like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like I was like, he
Yeah,
should be where the gun was, or so. Like I don't know what your take is on this. Like I purposely bought Guardians and converted
I
them to have 2 crew.
actually after the tournament went to GW to pick up my little box of 4 Guardians that Clarence had told me that they make a box of 4 Guardians. I was like, what? Because I didn't want to buy a full box of Guardians. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not happening. Like GW should supply me Guardians. But yeah, they had a box. I'm like, sweet. And I only take like painted at 4 decans. I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I actually have them primed white, and I'm gonna paint them. But like now decans are not even in my army, so I was like, ah,
Yeah.
no
But
inspiration.
is that a legitimate rule, Logan? Like, what do you think about that? Like,
So for anyone who doesn't know the exact scenario, the D cannons come with one guy on foot and one guy who's modeled to be standing on the weapon platform itself.
but you
the
can model
artillery piece.
both on the weapon technically.
You can model
Yeah.
both on the weapon,
And
but
he's-
only possibly one on foot with the kit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's modeled sitting on the decan.
Yeah. So
it's like,
therein lies the problem. So my take on it is pretty much the same as yours, Chris. If I had to do a spot ruling on it, I'd say the dude that was sitting on it has to go within the base of whatever the artillery model was. Now that said, I think I will clarify in our events somehow.
Stop
anyway,
moving, Yoshi. Stop moving.
is that if you are taking it, have both your guys on foot. Like if it's modeled on it, that's fine, doesn't matter. But your artillery crew must actually be separate models.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
makes
and,
sense.
and just I'll get it out of the way now. If that means that you're finding this, you're hearing this, or you missed it, whatever, and you show up day of, I don't care if it's a proxy for that specifically because it's not something that actually comes with it. But you need to have something that's physically there.
Like even if they made the decan, the sprue have just an extra set of legs that are standing, it'd
Yeah.
make everyone's life easier. But no,
It's
it's sitting.
I think it's bullshit that for something that GW overlooked, somebody should have to go out and buy like a $30 box of Guardians that are utterly worthless otherwise to fulfill something that's an oversight in the modeling. So anyway,
But-
that is what it is. I would strongly recommend for anybody who's going to any event that you have your guys on foot specifically so you can avoid that problem happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing too that I was wondering is just like, so let's say they are mounted on it and I hit that with a template weapon, do I automatically get 2 rolls to
Yeah.
wound?
Yeah.
And then like who's closer, the crew or the gun, because they're on the same base?
When I would do it before, if somebody hit like with a large blast, let's say, right? I would like they would always say, I hit 2 guys. I'm like, no, you hit 3. Like I would tell them honestly. And then with shooting, I would just based on where you were. Like if you were standing closer to the Guardian, I'd be like, you hit the Guardian first or the bike.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
where the issue would rise up sometimes. I never really had anybody give you a problem with it, except they would probably die if they were ever getting shot at anyway, or in
But yeah,
combat.
it probably never came to the point. Like in our game, it kind of mattered.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. It was like, well, they're just out of range because I was pushing the envelope. I wanted to be just in range, but as
Yeah.
close to your other shit as possible. So I could have just been an inch closer and gotten him if I would have known he was there. But
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah.
that's cool.
Go ahead.
So
Hey, Doc.
I guess we'll hand it over to Logan for the results.
Sure. So the top table going into round 4 was double Eldar. Table 2 was double Necrons.
Which is awesome.
I want to say table 3 was double Space Marines. So
It could have been.
there's a fair bit of that going on. That's it. I mean, we did only have 18 people, so the spread wasn't that big. I think we did have 5 or 6 Eldar players out of those 18, though. It was a significant amount, which is not too surprising. But it's a good split. Otherwise, I think it was like 5 Eldar, 2 Necrons, 2 or 3 Chaos, 2 or 3 Space Marines, and then
There was guard.
miscellaneous. Yeah, there was a guard player. Poor BJ, he didn't win a single game. I don't think he actually got like a single point.
Well, he had that Gatling super heavy. What's it called? Like
The Stormlord.
The Stormlord.
Storm-
The
Stormlord
Stormlord
and-
full of las cannon guys.
Yeah, he had like
it-
15 last cans in there.
It,
or
it
something.
can work. It needs support though, sadly. And yeah, Darby was there with his gorgeous Dark Eldar army. So
Yeah.
it had a good spread. It was a lot of fun. I got to play for 3 dice rolls. I got to see if a game ended. I got to roll Eye of Mork shot, or Eye of Gork, whatever the hell it is, the D shot from the Stampa, and I got to roll to wound with that. Yeah,
Oh.
I had a drastic effect on one game. So we
Did
did
you,
have.
roll, did you roll a 1?
I did not. I actually
Oh.
hit with the eye laser, and I killed something.
Oh,
Killed a
geez.
guardian, or not a guardian. Whatever the Dark Eldar guy is.
So White Warrior?
Cavalry
So getting
Warrior.
back on topic,
Yeah.
who won Best Painted?
So, Best Painted went to Andrew Triple, same way it always does, mostly by merit of vote, because the people that would have won it otherwise, that were higher scored, won other awards. But as always, his Orc army was absolutely gorgeous, including his Stampa. Like, everything looked beautiful, just didn't necessarily have the highest points for it. Then we had second best hobbyist. Actually, let me pull up the results here. But just to go with the ones I do remember, we had Best Painted was Andrew Triple. Best General went to you, I believe. No, it was Joe Duca with his Necrons. And then Best Overall went to Mr. Chris Haynes.
Woo!
And then, yeah, now I can remember this. Second Best Overall went to you, Yoshi, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And second Best General went to Olivier with his Battle Company. Second best hobbyist, I cannot remember. I want to
Jason.
say it was it Jason?
Jason
Okay.
Sparks, yeah.
Jason Sparks, which actually was a 5-way tie for the second best painted, and
wow.
it just came down to votes.
So that's pretty good. So the top, I guess, for generalship anyway, the top 2 was Eldar,
Yeah,
obviously, and then it went to it was Necrons and Space Marines.
Necrons and Space Marines. Yeah,
So that's pretty. It's indicative, the right word, of the current meta, I would say.
yeah. There were no Tau players. It's worth noting.
No
Yeah,
time.
So.
not even one.
Not one.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I'd say it was relatively in line. So
So it was an awesome event, and we have the 4th installment coming up in 3 months, and we'll talk about it later.
Yep.
So in order to move the show along, Yoshi's the only one we know that really went to Berry Bash that's on the show, because Logan and I had to drop out because of Logan.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us, I'm assuming you took the same army to Berry Bash, but maybe for the sake of, it's run by Scary from Scarredcast.
Yes.
He does a YouTube channel. So why don't you give us just a quick little overview of your Berry Bash? Nothing too crazy.
Sure. So Berry Bash was 1,500 points instead of 1,850, 2-hour rounds. Four-round event, which was awesome. We played 1 round, and then we had lunch, and then 3 straight rounds, which was crazy. Like that, my brain was like melted by the 4th round. Lots and lots of competitive guys. Like a lot of guys I see at the big tournaments, like the ones at least I go to, like Dan Plaid, Ricky Johnson, all of those guys. there with crazy lists. There was another orc army with a really cool custom stampa. Overall, the event was a lot of fun. I ended up playing like two people I knew, which was pure coincidence, but it was actually hilarious. And just overall, the event was actually it was pretty good. There was a good spread, not as much Eldar as I thought there would be. I think maybe there were 4 Eldar players or 5 out of like 36 people,
It's not bad.
something like
Not
that.
bad at all.
4 people. It wasn't too bad. There was like a man. There was a huge spread. There was 2 Tyranid or 3 Tyranid armies. I think 2 Orc. There was 2 Tau players. One guy actually took the drone net. There's pictures all over Facebook. If you go on under the Berry Bash, you can see all of them, and my pretty armies on there. But overall, it was a great event. I ended up coming third overall in the event and second for general. Burton came second for overall, and Dan Platt actually won the whole thing in first place overall. And my buddy Devin, that came with me from Toronto, actually won best general with his Centurion army. You guys remember him from?
Oh, this is the 16 Centurions or 12 Centurions?
Yeah, this time he only had 9 because 1,500 points
Yeah.
makes a difference. And he took some of the new Space Wolf stuff, like the crazy living lightning spell that you can do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, that spell is takes down void shields real quick.
And there was somebody at the event who had a real void shield generator.
Dan Platt.
Oh, well, there you go.
He did.
Well, when you work for GW, you could buy everything.
That's what I said. Yeah, but the orc guy there, his Stampa, if you see it online, is unbelievable.
Scratch built, right?
Scratch built. It looks so crazy, crazy cool. But a lot of armies there are really nicely painted. Harlequins ended up winning best painted. Guy, I played him first round, and his army looks stunning. Yeah, overall, a great event. It was. I think Scary was telling me something about it's like one of the first ITC events to run something to do with like the regional like rankings, how they're going to do it.
Yes. So ITC rankings are also split up by like East Coast, West Coast, Central US, other, I suppose. And I think Canada is its own region entirely. Maybe Eastern and Western Canada, we'll see. But yeah, so that's going to be a thing as well.
Oh, so just I only want to be ranked best in Canada now, man.
Yeah.
That's my new goal. Screw this traveling down to Atlanta and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Suddenly the goal is a lot lower. But yeah, so you still get their overall ranking, but they're also going to do like best of East Coast, best of Canada, best of West Coast.
Yeah. But yeah, overall great event. Lots of prize support. Like I think he gave out like I can't remember, like $500, $600, something like that worth of like just money to use inside the Berry store that they have there. Tables are really great, and yeah, we got a chance to try out the new missions for ITC,
Yes.
where you roll, which was incredibly different than regular ITC that we played at PNP 3, because now you roll 3 dice and pick the 2 that you want to do, and going second is not as big a deal as I realized. Sometimes you want to go first.
So the scoring changed as well, right? It's the roll 3, pick 2, but scoring is also done at the top of your player turn, but your subsequent turn. So on turn 1, you roll for your 3 objectives, and you score it at the beginning of your following turn, not at the end of the game turn. So going second is heavily diminished now.
Yeah, and when you roll your maelstroms, we don't roll at the same time anymore.
Yeah, it's like you score at the top of your turn, and then you roll for your next objectives. So
Yeah,
basically,
so
every player always has one full game turn to try to trump their opponent.
Yeah, which it helps too, because before when we roll at the same time, you knew my objectives, so you kind of played to it. You can still do it now, because when I roll it, you still get a turn to like stop me, but at the same time, you might not position yourself in such a way like that first turn, that movement you do might not be the same.
Yeah,
Like you might not put yourself in a better position, but
yeah, to an extent, it's closer to like the Adepticon style stuff, where basically you have to set yourself up, and your opponent gets that one turn to try to counter whatever you've done. So you have that constant back and forth, which I think is a lot better than how it was.
yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, going second is still really good now.
Oh, yeah.
Not before it was good for Maelstrom. Now it's actually, I think, really good for primary.
Yeah,
like
it's almost
that's
it's switched a fair bit. Yeah,
it's switched a fair bit where you want to go back to primary, and now you can like do a cool thing where if on certain missions where you roll what was it? If you roll 2 obscure objectives and this other one, you can oh my god, you can do 3 points.
the all
All or nothing, which is good, but you're sweating the whole time when you're doing it, because you're like, oh man, if I don't get that 3rd objective or that 3rd unit to kill, I get nothing, and that can either help you a lot or like handicap you horribly.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It lets you catch up if you can kind of do like an all-in, like a Hail Mary to get it. But That's cool. So I guess that's Berry Bash. Check her out next year. It's a great time running in Barrie, Ontario. So we're gonna move on. We got the Pimp My List, and so we don't have a lot to contribute to this list because it's pretty solid for what it is, but we'll give our little 2 cents there. So it's a Blood Angels list, 1,500 points, coming from Mark. And I want to read this little blurb because it's kind of funny, actually. So I'm a Blood Angels player at heart, and I've been trying to work out a list ever since the new 7th Ed book came out, and then Eldar got released, then Necrons, and then Space Marines, and I almost quit right there and then. So Blood Angels got boned, and I'm hoping to find some gems in the rough with this list that I have built with no Forge World. So it's 1,500 points. It's a Sanguinary Priest with a Jump Pack and a Veiler's Edge, which is an AP2 relic sword. He has 5 Tactical Marines, Heavy Flamer, Razorback with a Heavy Bolter, 5 Tactical Marines, Heavy Bolter with Assault Cannon, 5 Tactical Marines, Heavy Bolter with a Las Plaz Razorback, Sanguinary Guard, which are the 2+ armor save jump troops that have the +1 strength AP 3 or 2 sword, and then they have 2 attacks each, 2+ save. Furiosa Dreadnought in a drop pod with a Flamer Melta. Furiosa Dreadnought with a Flamer Melta in the Storm Raven. A Storm Raven with a Twin Link Las Cannon, Twin Link Multi Melta. A Ball Predator with a Twin Link Assault Cannon and Heavy Bolter Sponsons. And a Predator with Auto Cannons and Las Cannon Sponsors. So his deployment's pretty similar. He puts the Razorbacks in the middle, and he runs his jump pack troops up behind them to try and use them as mobile cover. So I guess first thing first, we'll try to pimp it. So we don't want to change it too much. We just want to give some slight tweaks to kind of help him out a little bit. Now, the first thing that screams out to me is the Sanguinary Priest as your only HQ needs the Veritas Vitae. And so what that is it basically gives you 1 additional Warlord trait on the strategic trait table, and if you roll a duplicate, you get to re-roll it. Now this is awesome because it'll allow, you're more likely to get 3 units infiltrating, which means you can bump up your Assault Marines if there's some line of sight blocking terrain, things like that. It also gives you a good shot at getting +1 cover ruins and any of those other strategic traits that are really good. Using 2 of those lets
Reroll
you
reserves for
reroll
Storm Raven.
reserves, -1 to your opponent's reserves. It's excellent.
Yeah.
It's only 15 points too, which is a bargain.
Oh.
So Yoshi, I'm going to hand over to you. There were some things that you said you would change.
Just looking at it, I felt like if he had more drop pods, it'd be good. Like if he could put that other Furioso in a drop pod, they would both come in. Because right now he has it with the Storm Raven, and I know he gets the 2 rolls on the street, so he probably is going to get reroll reserves or +1 reserves. But it's that chance of 1 dice roll make 2 of your units not come in as opposed to just 1.
Yeah.
And, it's just more helpful, too, because now you put the drop pods, that's 2 more units, plus the Furiosas come out. And those things are scary when I see
and
them
you
out,
can
right?
take it in the Lucius pattern pod as well, if you can get your hands on that, which is always a good choice.
Well, he said no Forge Rolls.
No Forge, okay, so no Lucius
that's
pattern
right.
then.
But, it is a good option. So I know he said no Forge Roll, but the Lucius Pattern Pod is really nice for Dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
But I agree with Yoshi on that one. So you have your 2 Furiosos. If they both came in turn 1, that's 2 armor 13 crazy assault dudes in your grill. It would also mean dropping a Razorback in return for a pod on a tactical squad.
It's not a bad idea.
Which I think would be good because then you're guaranteed both Dreadnoughts turn 1, and then you have an objective secured pod with an objective secured unit coming in later to score objectives. Now, what I would recommend to drop to get that in would be I'd drop the Ball Predator over the Predator.
Yeah.
So you could drop that Ball Predator, get 2 more pods. Storm Raven's still an awesome tank, an awesome flyer.
Storm Ravens put in work every day of the week.
So what were I don't have this in front of me. What were the point costs on the 2 Predators, the Ball Predator and the other one?
Oh, he doesn't have the points cost in his list when he printed it. I think they're around the 140, 150 mark. So the last cannon sponsons are like 40 points.
I think they're like 140 if you get them out with last cannon.
And the auto cannon guy's 70. So I want to say it's like 120, 130 for the.
I'd almost say if you're not going to take the Ball Predator, is drop the other one as well and go double Vindicator. Because the fast Vindicators are actually a decent threat for the 1 turn until they get glanced. But I mean, the thing is, if you got 3 snap-firing las cannons, it's not that great either. And Predators are kind of balls anyway, so you may as well, play to your strengths and take advantage of fast with one of the hardest-hitting things you can get.
Yeah, but is that even legitimate? Like, wouldn't you rather just drop the Predators, add in a unit of Death Company, or add in a unit of Assault Marines and put them in that Storm Raven?
If you yeah, if
Or
you had his cat,
Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators in the Storm Raven, so even if the thing crashes,
Yeah,
your guys
Storm
live.
Raven's an assault vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely do that and toss. Yeah, drop the tanks, toss Mephisto in there with a hard hitting squad, Death Company or something.
You
yeah,
could do that
Tear
as
through
well.
shit.
or
But
you,
I prefer the Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators inside the Storm Raven because of when it crashes, right?
Yeah, it's fair. They're not a lot less likely to die. Yeah.
Yeah.
if you drop those two predators, you could also take the two storm talons and make that storm raven actual formation and bring that in.
It's
You know
nice
what I'm
because you
saying?
get them all
I don't
together.
like Storm Talons
Are kind
personally,
of shit
but
though.
yeah.
What the ones with the what's the name, the assault cannon and the
Yeah, you get the assault cannon and the missiles. The problem is that they just fold like a wet paper bag.
I
So
don't know.
they're
When
armor 11. They die
they are,
fast.
but when they're on the ground, they get +1 to their cover, which is pretty
Yeah,
ridiculous.
but then they're jinking and just.
And they're 100.
I've never seen them actually do well. Let's put it that way.
And you know what? One of the big things too that I saw is make the Sanguinary Guard bigger. You could go for
Yeah.
like 10, and then you take who's their Lord of War?
Uh,
I forget his name now.
Dante?
Dante, and then all your units scatter d6 less, I do believe, with his Warlord
Yeah.
trait, and he's like an awesome tank. And so you could almost make this unit that just like so. Yeah, like it's gonna be like turn 2 if you get +1 reserves, but you have your two Furiosos come in, kind of shock. Then he could come in, chill right in front of your enemies. Another option would be add an Inquisitor with Servo Skulls to then so that Dante's unit does not scatter
Yeah,
and none of your Assault Marines scatter.
which I think is almost better because you can't target the skulls, and only to get rid of them you have to move within 6 of them, which you're probably not going to do anyway. So if you put them somewhere where you're going to deep strike, it's actually better,
Yeah.
and it's cheaper. It's like 34 points. So
So you could theoretically have like a whole Assault Marine army. Like so, yeah. That's the thing. Like with this Blood Angel book, I think what we're getting at is, yeah, the Space Marine book's better, but there's stuff in this book that is not available, and so you like if you're not using the stuff that's not available to regular Marines, you're kind of falling short as a Blood Angel player. Like
Yeah.
these Sanguinary Guard are fantastic.
They're really
like
good. Yeah.
2+ save, feel no pain. Like the Sanguinary Priest is gold, right? Like that's
there's
awesome.
strength 5 AP2 on weapons. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
They're nasty. They eat through whatever they get into for the most part.
Yeah, shiny
I feel like the Razorback spam middle, that's like a holdover from 5th edition. Like 2 units of that's fantastic, but
Yeah.
if you want to get more stuff in their grill to make their chapter tactics, I guess you could call it, worthwhile, which is Furious Charge on the whole army.
Razorbacks are really really expensive when you actually have to pay for them. That's my concern. So for the price of the 2 or 3 Razorbacks, you're legitimately losing out on an entire unit plus a drop pod.
Now we
Just to
understand
get
that
some
this,
heavy bolters.
this might be all the models that you own, and there's nothing wrong with playing.
Yeah, and
but-
my 2 cents on it, and you said this earlier, is the list as it was sent in looks like a hell of a lot of fun to play. Like it's not bad. This is us trying to optimize. I'm not saying you're making bad
Yeah.
choices by any means.
it's a pretty good take on an army that you don't really see a lot of anymore. Well,
It's good classic Blood Angels, right?
it's
Well,
classic Blood Angels. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I find like I'm working on a Blood Angels list myself, and the pods are fantastic. The one thing though is, are you allowed to put jump troops inside the Storm Raven?
Yes, they're bulky
Yes.
though.
But that's awesome. So like he could put his Sanguinary Priest and his Sanguinary Guard. If he needed to kind of null deploy, let's say, you could theoretically put like 3 tactical squads outside of their tanks on the board, hidden in terrain. You could put them in the Storm Raven, and you could kind of do the null deploy, come in turn 2 army, right? Like I was also thinking, maybe just take 2 empty pods. That way you don't have to drop in the 2 Furiosos turn 1. You could drop 2 empty pods turn 1. And then you could drop in the 2 Furiosos with your Assault Marines if you wanted to do the whole deep strike thing with the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool things you could do if you think a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
But it is a cool list, as Logan said. Like it's a lot of tanks. It's very 5th edition Blood Angels,
Yeah.
but there's nothing wrong with that. Like I played a 5th edition Sisters Army on the weekend, and it was pretty fun. Like it was good.
Yeah.
I bled kill points like crazy though, and that's those Razorbacks is 3 kill points a friggin' round that you're gonna give up. But
Well, a while back, I played a Blood Angels guy, and he took a Blood Angels Skyhammer, and it was 2 squads of 10 Assault Marines that split up. And
Yeah.
Assault Marines are not, they don't pack the biggest punch as they used to, but with Furious Charge, no, they're a little bit better.
well,
You can't
you can't give Skyhammer Blood Angel.
Yeah, it's Space Marine book only.
Where does it say that? I thought it was anybody could take it.
No, it's
No.
it's specifically a Space Marine formation.
Is it? I thought the
Yeah.
symbol on the top meant it was just a regular thingy.
No, it's Space
No.
Marines. Because
Because
you
well,
can take
if
any
you could
chapter.
do that, I need to know right now because I'm changing my list.
No,
for
you can take any chapter tactics for it, but it is specifically the Space Marine book.
So you can take Blood Angels.
No,
chapter.
Blood Angels is their own book.
Oh, you're
They're
talking.
their own
Oh,
faction.
they're not faction. Like I can do White Scars.
You can do White Scars,
Skyhammer.
Ultramarines,
They have their own book.
Salamanders,
Yeah,
whatever.
that makes
But
sense. Makes sense.
yeah, it's because that's all the Space Marine book, whereas Blood Angels and Dark Angels are their own books.
Oh, White
Yeah.
Scars. Oh, so good.
Well, you always do your Skyhammer Ultramarines.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you want the Devastators aren't the be all and all. I think the Assault Marines are very very good in that, but you really definitely want the rerolls with your Graph Cannons because you
Yeah.
want to come in and be like, oh, is that a Wraith Knight in cover? It's dead now, dead.
Especially
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
But so
Now
so back we
you
got to
don't
get back
even
to
need
Blood
to know.
Angels though because,
Yeah.
but yeah, all in all, it's you got to think outside the box. The skulls will definitely give you an advantage and just kind of try some stuff out and think differently. You know, don't play your Blood Angels like a Marine book because if you're going to play them like an Ultramarine army, you might as well just use your red models as Ultramarines.
Play Red Scorpions or something. Yeah.
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 So that's cool. So I guess we're going to move on to the question and answer period. So the first question we got was not directly asked to us. It was a Twitter question that I answered on Twitter, but we'll go through that now. Is what's a good point value to start 40K with?
1,000 points.
Yeah, I'd say 1,000, 1,250.
So you wouldn't say like 500. You'd say go right to the 1,000 if you can.
Yeah, I would say, if you just want to play with the models you have, play with the models you have. If you want to get a good feel for how the game actually works and some of the differences in lists and whatnot, I think you need at least 1,000 points to really understand how things can work together or how they balance against each other.
Yeah, I always found when I build an army, I always try to build 1,000 points first because you can use some of like the cool tools. So I feel like 500, you don't get all the cool fancy stuff, but you get to see like your army kind of starts meshing more and more as you go higher. So I think 1,000 points is pretty cool, and it's not a lot to paint, at least in Warhammer 40K, depending what army.
Yeah,
you do.
generally not. And you're looking at like with those starter sets, you're looking at $150, $200 for 1,000 points. Does that seem low or high to you, cost
I
wise?
think that's significantly lower than it actually costs. Those starter boxes are like 300 to 400 points each.
Oh, they're that small, eh?
Yeah, they're really, really low points.
So you're looking at $300 to hit 1,000. So what I told the guy is I said 500 points, 1,000 points, 1,500 points, 1,850, 1,650. I said those are all legitimate. You kind of got to play with what you got, but those are generally what are accepted around like 1,500. Like you don't want to make like a 1,400 point army and play with your club because that's
very
never
random
transitions. Yeah, it's very weird. I know like 1,650 is weird, but that's actually a number that people play, and so is 1,850.
Yeah.
And so, okay, that's a good. I want your guys' take on that. Next one: is there a point in taking war gear on Space Marine sergeants? If so, what gear and why? Yoshi.
Melt bombs.
That's
Depending
it?
which, well, depending what they are. For like the assault marines, for example, a sergeant with a melt bomb is really good because you're gonna be charging stuff, maybe tanks, maybe monstrous creatures, whatever. At least you have one guy in there that can put on the wound,
Mhm.
which is not too bad. Combi weapons like combi grav, combi melta. It's really good one shot, especially if you're ultramarines and you come down a drop pod. If you have a melta gun, your 5-man squad, and a combi melta, it's kind of pop your tactical doctrine, not even more of a reassurance to blow up whatever tank it is.
Mhm.
That's my
Sorry.
opinion on it.
And this question was from Tim. I forgot to mention. So Tim emailed us in. Sorry, Tim. I forgot to mention your name there. Logan, you have anything to add?
Melta bombs, combi weapons, auspex, nothing else ever.
That's right.
The other stuff is too expensive.
Can you
so
give them Auspex?
you can.
Really?
Some of them.
I thought
Some
only, I thought
units.
only characters could take it.
Only
I'm
characters.
pretty sure you can take it on some of the.
5
Some
points to take it on
upgrades.
it. 5 points to take it on everybody.
I think it's a no, but we're not gonna. We'll just look it up if you
We'll check.
can or
Anyway,
cannot.
if you can, you
if you
take it.
can, absolutely take it on
Yeah,
everybody.
the point I'm trying to make is you never actually take like a power fist or anything. The reason is it's a 1 wound model with no invulnerable save, no way to get an invulnerable save unless you give like a combat shield or something, which is also a waste of points.
Yeah.
Your toughness 4 almost always or worse. It's not worth the investment to spend 25 points on a model that costs less than the upgrade.
The
Yeah,
only
that
thing I
guy.
would add to what you guys said is on an assault marine sergeant, I would give him a power axe for the AP2
Yeah, that's not bad.
because you
What's an
want your
eviscerator
assault
do?
marines to kill stuff. An eviscerator is
It's
armor bane,
two-handed. Armor bane.
armor
Oh,
bane power fist. Yeah.
is it two-handed? Yeah, it's
Yes.
two-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or unwieldy, whatever one.
But a
Whichever.
power axe is nice because it gives you an extra attack still with a pistol. I do no, it's unwieldy, isn't it? It's unwieldy.
It's
So
unwieldy.
you but you're AP2, so you can go in there and actually like nuke something. Like you can
Yeah.
actually kill one or two marines. You can if you do the math on it, it means your assault marines can generally get in your
Yeah.
turn,
If you
kill them in your
challenge,
opponent's turn, and get out.
yeah.
Right?
And if you get challenged, you might. Hey, you could kill not so good character.
Yeah, that's rare, but you could. Then the second question from Tim, which I'm going to field to Logan, is what is the best assassin to take as an ally and why?
Calexis, because of every reason. They're really tough to kill. If you put them in a pod, they're fast moving. They can be where you want them to be when you want them to be. They've got really good shooting with BS8, and they just kill psychic units. But the Strength 5 AP1, even if you're just getting 3 shots, is fantastic. They're monsters in close combat with ignoring armor saves. So weapon skill 8, everything hits them as if it was weapon skill 1, so everything is on 5, so you're basically invisible in terms of like ITC. They're shutting down psychic powers. They're shutting down warp charge generation, so it's even harder to go against you if you have psychers. And they just kill basically whatever they come into combat with, or lock it there for many, many turns since they're fearless. You just got to make sure they're not sitting next to power fists.
Yeah.
It's really the only thing.
You agree, Yoshi?
I agree. Also, the Calexis, he has a psych out grenade, and I've lost many a Farseer to that grenade. So you just take his automatic perils, and you're -3 on your test, which is brutal, and then you're dead. If you
Yeah.
if you roll a 1. But whatever.
I like him in a drop pod because he's also like -2 to look out sirs. So like if somebody has like an invisible Death Star and they put like
Yeah.
a nice character on the back or the side, you could drop in, be like, oh, -2 lookout sir, you're no longer invisible. I'm gonna
Yeah.
and then he shoots like 4 or 5 shots, whatever, and
As
kills
many,
that
as many
character.
warp charges. He steals your warp charges and
Yeah.
shoots you with them.
Exactly. Like this guy is brutal against the Wolf Star that has Librarius Conclave in it because you're getting like 10 BS8 Strength 5 AP1 shots that have -2 to look out, sir. You nullify their invis, and then the rest of your army just poops on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
and if he
ignores
screws up
you.
and has a character on the side, like one of those juicy Iron Priests,
Yeah.
you kill that guy. Oh yeah, it's so good. And then
He instant kills all psychers. It's freaking. He's ridiculous. And
number.
he's-
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
No,
that's my bad. There's a bit of a lag between you and I think.
Oh, okay. And he's 140 points, which is like
Yeah,
bargain
he's a
basement
bargain.
prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then number 2, I would say, is the Calidus, which is the girl that can go anywhere on the board. Then she counts as invisible, like the turn she comes in. Not invisible, but you can only snap shoot her. And then she can basically like just come on behind somebody, like in a piece of like so nobody could see her, and then come out and charge. And she's got a kick-ass flamer. She's also really good depending on your list design. But with the prevalence of like how good invisibility is, I think Logan hit it dead on the head. So.
Yeah, and it's not just invis too, right? Like you're shutting down all the biomancy shit. You're shutting down demon summoning. You're shutting down cursed earth. All that
Shutting
good
down
stuff.
everything.
Yeah. Cool. So that's it from our previous email-in questions. So thanks, Tim, for those two. And I forget who it was on Twitter. I'm sorry, but I think he's an AOS player primarily, getting into 40K. So that's pretty good. Do we have any questions from the live stream?
Yeah, we got 2 so far. So first question is, can heralds that are conjured with sacrifice be upgraded with Hellforged artifacts and the new demon stuff?
Would a Hellforge artifact be like the bell?
Yes.
Then yes.
Yeah. They can. So the way
Can you guys explain that for those of us that aren't demon literate?
Sure. So the new demon gifts are actually, you know what? They wouldn't be able to. So the way, no, okay, sorry. The way that the new demon gifts are worded is if you can take an exalted gift, you can instead choose to take one of these other artifacts at whatever the point cost is. Sorry, not instead, as well. You can take one of the artifacts at whatever their point cost is. So you can get like the Doomsday Bell, which is -1 to leadership for all enemy models, which is awesome. Or the
So
3++
good.
rerolling ones, invul save, all that kind of stuff. And the way the sacrifice spell is worded is you get up to 30 points of options. You can spend those however you want. Do you want a disc? Do you want psychic levels? Whatever. And since heralds can take exalted gifts, which is what I was stumbling over before, you do have access to these, so they would be a legitimate option. So yes.
Sweet. What's question number 2?
Next
was
question.
that from Nick?
That was from Nick. Yeah, our new demon player on Team CanHammer.
You're welcome, Nick.
So second question is from Darby up in Petawawa, or North Bay, somewhere in that area. How do you guys feel about the use of clocks and clock apps in games?
Well, this is the big debate online. So a lot of people are... So this came out of Frontline, which I know we've been talking about a lot about that, but that's kind of what we play. Anyway, at the LVO, lots of people didn't finish their game, which is 100% normal at all Warhammer tournaments. Half the people usually don't finish their games. Most games end at turn 5, and not because of a roll, because of a clock. And this is normal. This has been this way since 3rd edition. It's been kind of like, not a taboo thing, but it's like a that under CD, like, it's kind of weird. Nobody likes it, but nobody talks about it because nobody wants to fix it. So the thing is people want chess clocks and or timers put in, so like you time your turns. I personally don't think it's fair because of the fact that in 40K you both have to do stuff on both people's turns. So a lot of it you have to keep engaged. I also feel that with the chess clocks, you come into that situation where it's going to become part of the game, and guys are going to try to burn your opponent's chess clock down to win, right? Oh, chess clock ends? Like, does the game end? Or do you just stop doing your turn? Like, so what happens if Logan and I are playing a really tight game, and then I hit 0 1 second before him? Does he get a full victory and I get a 0?
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of weird part. Or does it just say, like, well, Logan gets 1 second to do one thing, and then we count up the points at the end of the game? Like,
yeah, like, I saw, like, the world's longest thread about chess clocks on DACA about should they use them, how to use them, and et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't even add my 2 cents in 'cause I'm like, oh, no, I'm not stepping all over this. But I personally don't like them just because I feel it's going to make games longer because we'll be constantly trying to click back and forth for many different phases. Like, do you click when you're rolling saves? Because some people take wound shenanigans and it takes forever. Or, like, denying dice. Like, I cast a spell. Do I clock and wait until you decide if you're going to deny the witch? There's too much interaction in turns between players to make chess clocks a reliable thing. You could have, like, a clock at your table counting down the time of the game, and then the onus is on you as a player and your opponent to, be on top of each other and make your game go at a timely fashion. Or even back in the day, judges would yell out, hey, you should be on turn 2 or 3 or 4, and to give you an idea of what turn you should be on, and you can kind of, like, pick up the game. But
So I saw something this last weekend. I played in a little tournament, and Franklin's back in. He's brought his Blood Angels, playing the game. He's like a local guy for me. And there was one game, and I looked over them, because this is a big issue, and him and his opponent were, like, chit-chatting for, like, 15 minutes about, like, cool stuff, fun, blah, blah, blah. And they never finished their game, and neither one of them complained, but he did say, like, oh, we only got to turn 3. That kind of sucks. And I was like, yeah, I think it's because, like, you can't go to a table and chit-chat. You have to, like, go to the table. And it sounds like a lot of people don't like this, but, like, if you're serious about finishing your games, you have to go up and be like, okay, first things first, we roll for table side. And, like, you can't sit there and discuss the terrain. You have to be like, is that a ruin or not? And the guy's like, well, I don't think it's a ruin. I think it's a 5. Okay, it's a 5. Like, you almost have to kind of move it along.
yeah,
Okay, warlord trade. Okay, roll for psychic powers. Okay, let's start to... And then, like, if somebody has to take a pee or something like that, roll and see who has to deploy first. And sadly, if you're deploying first, you got to wait for your deployment to be done to go take a quick leak, right? Like, there's a lot of those things that get the game going, and then you could play through it. And I think it's a lot of, like, if your opponent's having trouble deciding, sometimes it helps to be like, hey, man, so you have 2 units left to shoot, right? Because sometimes they're, like, thinking, and you're like, nope, you only have 2, right?
yeah,
Shoot
exactly.
those. And then, like, assault phase. You don't have to be mean. Just be like, so there's 2 combats. Which one do you want to do first? And that's how that's how I go, okay, it's assault phase. Which one do you want to do first? That one? Okay, start rolling. Oh, I'm initiative 10. Who's initiative 6? That guy is? Okay, so he goes next.
Yeah.
You keep it going.
And that's what I mean.
think that's better.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I think if you're an avid tournament player, for example, you don't do it on purpose, but you almost say those things already just out of sheer coincidence that you do it all the time. Like, I mention things. I don't even know why. I'm like, oh, okay, you want to do this comment first? Like if you want to play fast and you want to get to the end of the game, you say it. I almost feel like when I do chit chat is when you can do it. Like if it's his deployment phase, for example, and he's deploying units, you can kind of talk with him. Like he can put models down and talk to you at the same time.
Depends who it is. Like
Yeah,
if you have an inkling that he's like, if you look at a guy's army and he has 180 boys and he starts deploying, I would just say I'm not going to chit chat with this dude till the round's over.
I'm gonna sit down and not say anything to him the whole game.
But if he's got 6 Dread Knights, you could probably chit chat the whole game nonstop. Or if it's like,
Yeah.
let's say I know I'm playing Yoshi and we're both freakishly fast, we would just, we could probably chit chat the whole time.
Yeah, and that's also a thing too. I think I said it when I was at Berry Bash. Someone when they were talking about slow playing because one guy only got to like turn 2 or something like that, and I told him like it's one thing if you're playing somebody you know, where you know their kind of tactics or how they play, and you guys feed off each other and you guys play really fast. But if I play somebody I've never played before, the game might take longer only because I don't know what his strategies are. So you spend more time thinking and processing it, and some people do it faster than others, but that's just my take on it. But I don't know. Most games I've played have gone to at least turn 5 for the most part. Me and Wee's game at Barry went to turn 7, and we still had like an hour to kill, which was ridiculous.
So my perspective on this is a little different from most people's, I think. So in all of the tournaments I've ever played over the 2+ years I've been back into this, I have only ever had one game that has not hit at least turn 5. So I don't understand how people aren't finishing games in 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours, what have you. There's really no excuse to not finish it. That said, for the chess clock style thing on its own, I think inherently it's literally the only solution to the problem, right? It's impossible to go around police every table, and if you aren't on turn 2, 45 minutes in, you both get zeros, whatever. It's not going to happen. It's dumb.
Because that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And
because some armies take like really long turn 1 and 2s, and then the rest of the game's fast.
Exactly. Now the other thing that keeps coming up is if you're playing chess clocks, well, it's not fair to the guy who's running Green Tide. Well, tough shit. Don't fucking bring Green Tide then. If you can't play Green Tide in 2.5 hours,
here's my hammer.
Well, no, I mean think about it.
I agree with you. I agree.
If you can't play your army in 2.5 hours, which reasonably means that you're playing for an hour and 15 minutes, your opponent's playing for an hour and 15 minutes, do not bring that army. Because you're fucking over your opponent just as much as you're fucking over yourself, and that's not fair to anyone. So
that's exactly a good point. Like in the ETC compact, one of the comp restrictions kind of is if you cannot finish a game with this army, do not play it.
Yeah.
And that's like a legitimate part of the comp.
And that's with 4-hour rounds, right? And from what I hear from a lot of the Team USA guys, last year they were having games that weren't finishing in 4 hours. And that blows my mind. Even if I'm having beers, like we played, what was that, a 12,000 point fantasy game? Yeah. And that finished in under 3 hours.
We can have a couples massage and still finish a game.
I don't get it. But
like, that
anyway, I think the bottom line is that if you're playing it with chess clocks, there are 2 considerations that have to be made. One is a ruling on how you handle the timer running out. I don't like the death clock approach from War Machine. I don't think it works for 40k. My personal take on it is if your timer is out, you sit there, you roll your saves, and your opponent plays out their clock. The other part of it is, yes, just get used to going back and forth. If you're doing saves, whatever, it honestly doesn't take that much time. Just roll your dice next to the clock, tap it over. I got 6 hits, pick up your dice, roll it. I got 6 wounds. How do you want to, how are you going to do your lookout surge? Roll your saves, hit it back. Like, it's right next to your hand. It's something you have to get used to. At first, yes, it will eat up time, but later on, it's really no different. And, you bring up a good point, though, Yoshi, is that if somebody's doing a whole bunch of save shenanigans, like you're shooting into a wolf star or something where it's constant lookout surges and whatnot.
Yeah, it should eat up their time.
It eats up a lot of time, yeah. And that's where you have to flip it over to the other player. Because, again, it literally is burning time. Like,
originally I saw Frontline saying that their solution, or at least what the solution they thought would be good, would to drop the points. And my whole argument for that was, if you're a slow player, for that term, for example, if you're a slow player at 1850, you will slow play at 1500.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, the point cost is not going to matter. It's not going to change the problem.
Exactly.
They're just going to do it anyway. And no one's going to play a 3-hour, 1500 point games. Like, that's not going to happen. You're going to have guys sitting around for an hour and a half after the game's done.
Yeah, and that's exactly the whole reason that I'm sort of opposed to it. Opposed to the smaller game size is, well, first off, I like playing with all my toys, but I don't think, and if you want to play 1650, sure, go for it. That's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that inherently. I just don't think it's the solution to that problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I think literally the only ways to deal with it are to, encourage people to get their ass in gear, keep them going, and for some hard data at least from our past 2 tournaments, we've had, I think it was a total of 6 games out of. Got to do some quick math. Anyway, the first event was 24 people, and then we had 18 people at this one. And both were 4-round events. We had 6 games that did not reach at least turn 5 out of 2 events with that many people.
So
and
I got
most
another.
of those people never play against each other.
Which is pretty good.
So I have another counter. Like, so is getting to turn 5 finishing a game, or is rolling random game length and having it fail finishing a game? Because I know it's like a lot of packs are like get to turn 5, but you could almost design an army that's slow to end the game on turn 5 and win.
Steve Sisk. Excuse me.
Somebody did that. Like that's a like I didn't know
that was how
a
Steve
thing.
Sisk won every single game at LVO.
He just slow played to turn 5 and he knew that he had it.
Well, I don't want to say slow play. He was not fast about playing, but I don't want to put a negative connotation on it. But every single one of his games ended on turn 5 or before, and at the beginning of his games that were on stream, he was specifically asking for judge calls constantly so he could know exactly how long he needed to take.
For questions, he knew the answer. Like I don't care about him, so I'm like.
So we'll just say that this is hearsay. It is just our opinions.
It's purely
but
opinion.
it's on the internet.
Allegedly.
But yeah, so that's the thing, right? Is personally, I feel a game ends when the die roll finishes, and I do like the ETC approach that says, if you only get to if you get under 5 turns, I think it is, you get penalized, and if you only get to 5 turns and you didn't roll to end the game, then you actually get a verbal warning in a strike 1, which is good.
In 4 hours, that's more than reasonable. There's no reason you shouldn't have a normal end to the game. 2.5 hours. I think you should routinely be rolling for a turn 6, but worst case, you should finish a turn 5.
Yeah. If we can, for me, if we can get to the bottom of 5, even if there's no roll, we get to the bottom of 5, I feel like we had a game. Like there was enough turns. Turn 6 is like, those are the bonus. To me, I call them bonus
that helps
rounds.
Eldar, man. That 100% helps my Eldar. I find because
any
turn
turn
6, I lose usually turn 6, I lose 4 bike units.
Here's a big thing to keep in mind as well. If we're talking ITC style events or ITC style scoring now, you do not score on the last turn of the game. Yeah. Because you roll for your objective, like you score going into turn 5, but whatever you do in turn 5, you don't score if there's no turn 6. So if you have bottom of turn and your game ends on turn 5. Well, you're no better off or worse off than your opponent was for that turn.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because both of you have scored whatever you could score. So I think that solves a fair bit of it as well and really prevents it from inherently being a problem ending on it. But yeah, I mean, my preference is always to play a full game. But
I played 9 turns if we could. Like, don't get me wrong.
I think there are two things to it. Is one is either have every game end on turn 5 and get rid of random game length, which drastically shifts how the game works.
Can't do that.
Or go for chess clocks. If you want to address this problem, I think chess clocks are literally the only solution to it.
And they're free now, right? With iPhones, like everybody, as long as one, you can get the app, right? Or is that a thing or no? I don't know. I don't want them, but I'm just saying, like, if you want,
there are lots of apps. If you want to practice with it, do it. It is not viable for a tournament. Even like a 20-man, I would never suggest it. Because, my screen turned off. Let me waste 30 seconds bringing it back up. Oh, the timer stopped. It didn't read my finger when I hit it.
It'll kill your phone battery.
Yeah, there are too many problems with it. I mean, the biggest hurdle for even implementing the chess clock thing is cost, right? They're $40 to $50 each in wholesale. So
those are crappy, like China ones. I was looking at this because I was like, maybe we should order one, and then the one I wanted was like $120. And I was like,
it's not.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to happen. War Machine makes it work, and they do it very well. Their game is a lot more streamlined, which really, really helps. But I think just the barrier of entry on cost, do we expect players to do it? Now how do we deal with the fact that everyone has a different clock and, you can rig stuff, whatever. Or does the TO have to supply it? Suddenly your events cost an extra $2,000 to run. Well, that's
not in the budget. I'm not going to lie to you. Our budgets are not, like, our budgets are zero. Like,
even for Bloodbath, we're running a 3-day event. We couldn't possibly, if we sell out, we still can't afford clocks for everything. So,
Yeah, and so like we'd have to tone down prizes and stuff, but yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to suck it up. You got and there is to go back to the term I love, the social contract, right? When you sit down with your opponent, your social contract is we're going to play this game, we're going to finish it, and
Yeah.
both of you have to hold that up. So as Chris said, are you encouraging your opponent to keep things going? Are you being a dick to keep things going, which sometimes you have to do, and we saw it a lot at LVO.
You have to be a dick. Call a judge.
Yeah, and if you want to, so that's a good point too. If you're an hour and a half in, you're on turn 2, and your opponent's been playing for 70 minutes, call a judge over, and maybe they just need that little nudge from someone that isn't you, right? But if you want to see a great example of this in action, watch LVO game
I think it's
2 or 3 with Jeff Robinson.
Wait, with not the Bow Company. Bow Company versus War Convocation?
Bow Company versus War Convocation.
Yeah, it was game 3.
Yeah, they get through 5 or 6 turns in 2.5 hours, and they're chatting, they're playing the game, they're having fun, but they get shit done. And Jeff is a really good example of someone who keeps his opponent moving through stuff.
Okay, so last comment, and then we'll move on to the next question if there is one. When you practice for a tournament, time your games.
Okay, have a clock.
So even if you're having a beer and chit chatting, maybe set your clock to 3 hours and say, well, we're really slow, we're having beers, but have a clock going and get your games done fast. And if you practice that way, you'll play that way. Done.
Yeah.
So is there any more questions?
That is everything we've got in the chat.
So that was a
We
long-winded
didn't ask
one.
the question.
Sorry?
We didn't ask the question.
Yeah, I don't think Wee's in there.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so that was good. So I guess that concludes this episode of CanHammer. We will be broadcasting again live next Tuesday on Twitch TV, as well as this will be up this Thursday on iTunes and on YouTube sometime in the next few days or week, depending on the video release schedule. So I just want to say thanks, Yoshi, for coming on. That was awesome.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no worries.
Logan. And visit oneplusarmor.com for more information, or canhammer.com. If you want to email us, go to canhammer.podcast@gmail.com. Send us in questions, lists, whatever you want, and we'll get to them. And with that, have a good one, guys.
Good night.
See you later.